What if Jinx's fate had been different? What if Ekko had been given the chance to win back the one he lost? In Arcane, their story is more than a mere confrontation. It's a profound emotional drama steeped in regret, hope, and inevitable loss. Since childhood, Ekko and Powder were very close. In the scene on the bridge, we can see an echo of their past, a playful game they once shared when the world seemed simple and carefree. But it's not only Arcane that sheds light on their relationship. In the enemy cinematic, we spot additional moments. They mess around, laugh, spend time together, and when Vi demonstrates her fighting techniques, Ekko sits quite near his friend. And when Powder tries to imitate her sister's moves, he remains close by as if ready to back her up at any moment. All this suggests that even then it felt something more than friendship for her, possibly romantic, which is also hinted at by one of the game's voice lines.
I had a crush, until you started talking to the gun.
However, Powder didn't notice it, as she'd been fixated from an early age on proving her usefulness. Losing her parents made Vi her sole role model, so she followed Vi closely, trying hard to measure up. You can learn more about her psychological trauma and obsession with her sister in our detailed analysis. After the time skip, Powder began her transformation into Jinx and ended up under Silco's care. During that period, she presumably crossed paths with Ekko, who, being a compassionate and kind-hearted individual, tried reaching out to her, but the traumas of her past had changed Jinx completely, and each reminder of what happened merely agitated her unstable state further. She could not forget Clagor's and Milo's deaths, believing she had lost both Vander and Vi that day. While Jinx was wrestling with her demons, Ekko committed himself to protecting Zaun's people. He organized shelter for the needy, worked to stem the spread of Shimmer with the firelights, and strove to improve his hometown. When they finally met on the bridge, Jinx called him Boy Savior with obvious anger and frustration.
Oh, look who it is! The Boy Savior!
The phrase was not random. In her view, Ekko rescued everyone but failed to save her family. She'd lost everything that mattered, and in her despair she latched onto the one person who showed her interest, Silco. She became his faithful weapon, but seeing Ekko save others filled her with hatred. How could he help them but not save Vi, Milo, Clagor, or Vander? Deep inside, she treated it as a personal accusation she unconsciously leveled at Ekko. From his perspective, the situation was no less heartbreaking. He too had lost everyone he knew and loved, including Benzo, someone extremely important to him. After that fateful event, he spent 7 years watching his Firelight's comrades perish on missions, while his beloved city became unrecognizable because of Silco and the shimmer he spread. The only person from the past who remained alive was Powder, but she was not the same anymore. He realized Jinx stayed with Silco not through coercion, but by her own choice, a realization that pained him even more and fueled his anger. Beyond his bitterness toward her, he also carried guilt.
If I just went with you that day, maybe none of this would have happened.
He had become a symbol of salvation, yet he could not save the people dearest to him. He left a drawing of little Powder on the memorial wall, symbolizing her death. In his eyes, she no longer existed, only Jinx remained. That is why he did not support Vi in her wish to bring her sister back, bluntly saying, "She's gone." Still, when given the chance to eliminate Jinx, he could not do it. In that moment, he was facing not a criminal or a terrorist, but the same girl he'd once been in love with. On Jinx's side, the bridge scene underscores her internal conflict as well. Even as a child, Powder was a sharp shooter who never missed. Yet here, Jinx shoots and fails to hit Ekko, proof she does not actually want to harm him. When she unleashes the bomb, she throws it aside, hurting only herself, leaving Ekko unscathed. He merely loses his hoverboard. That moment shows that despite all that's happened, a piece of Powder still lingers within Jinx, and Ekko comprehends this. And now we turn to the second season of the show, specifically episode 7, which reduced many of us to tears. Here, Ekko finds himself in a parallel world, which is a true paradise for him. All the people he grew up with are alive here, and the only one who died is Vi. In this reality, Powder never turned to Jinx because Vi died when they were children, and there was no moment when Vi turned away from her. Thus, Powder never broke mentally. Even Vi's death here did not affect her as deeply as the events in the main universe. Initially, Ekko reacts aggressively toward Powder, shaped by the negative experiences from his own world. Then he feels confused for a while, since this version of Powder behaves normally and kindly. unlike the current Jinx in his timeline. He also learns that the local Ekko has romantic feelings for Powder, proven by the drawing of little Powder with a heart beside her at the start of the episode. Eventually, Ekko realizes that the Powder of this universe isn't like the Jinx from his reality. He then apologizes to her by drawing a memorial sketch of the adult Va. But talking with this universe's Powder breaks his heart as he regrets that this is not happening in his home world. Powder was the girl he grew up with and was very close to, yet due to myriad circumstances, the person he once knew has changed drastically. He even believes that Powder is dead in his timeline and that only Jinx remains. However, now, years later, he encounters the very same Powder he knew and wished for in his world. It is worth noting the parallel here. During the dance, the shot highlighting Powder's shoes references a first post-time skip encounter with Ekko in the show's first season. Meanwhile, the lyrics of the song playing as they dance convey a mix of romance and tragedy. "You're the best and the worst thing that ever happened to me." This underscores Ekko's tender, genuine feelings for Powder, but also the pain of having lost who she used to be. Meeting the normal Powder in the parallel universe reopens his emotional wounds in a way, because the Powder he knew ceased to exist long ago in his timeline, and Jinx cannot be changed. Nevertheless, Ekko saves the moment dancing with Powder. He wants that instant to last forever. The animation in this episode is shown at 4 frames, a nod to his invention known as the Z-Drive, which enables him to rewind time exactly 4 seconds. But even as he delights in all this, Ekko decides he does not belong here. In addition to that, it would be unfair to this universe's Ekko, whose body he currently inhabits. He decides he must go back to his reality to keep fighting for change, save more people and seek a way to help Jinx, so he gives this world's Powder a pendant as a parting memento. This pendant bears a rose, a symbol of love, but one can also spot hidden outlines of Ekko's and Powder's faces within the pattern. A crucial aspect of this journey is Ekko's realization that within Jinx from his universe, a part of Powder still survives, someone for whom he's willing to fight. He's seen how things could be if he made some difference. That is why he stops Jinx from taking her own life. He says no matter what happened in the past, it's never too late to build something new. Despite all the conflict and bloodshed, Ekko and Jinx remain bound by their past. Their parallel universe meeting has shown Ekko who Jinx might have been and rekindled his hope. Will he succeed in saving Jinx in his world? Or is the past beyond any repair? Arcane offers us no definitive answers, but one truth is clear: their tale is not over yet. Thank you for staying with me. If you enjoyed this video, please support our work by liking, subscribing, and ringing the bell. See you soon over a mug of the finest ale in all of Runeterra.